Think about a time when someone said something about some aspect of your identity that made you feel insulted or slighted. Even if they didn't intend it, you probably experienced a microaggression.
A microaggression is something that someone says to someone else without knowing that it may be offensive.
It hurts. So that's how I know it's a microaggression, because it feels disrespectful.
And it's not like outright racism, but it's something that is like almost unconscious in the way that you view people.
Most microaggressions are subtle and indirect, but they occur frequently in the daily interactions of members of historically underrepresented groups. And most often, people who commit microaggressions think of themselves as well-intentioned, non-racist, non-sexist people. They do not realize that the underlying messages communicated by their actions or comments are hurtful to other people.
One of my friends asked if my parents had their papers.
I had a science teacher, a physics teacher, and he told me that I was the smartest black girl in his class. I've been asked if I understood what they were talking about, or do you need any translation stuff just based on my name?
I'm not the spokesperson for the whole black community, but that's a microaggression I do experience a lot. Like, they want the black perspective, and I'm usually the only black girl in the class. So it's like, okay, what's your take on this?
Oftentimes I get asked, do you know how to speak your native language? And when I answer I do, it's just they're like, okay, well, what does Chinchal mean?
Being an African-American woman in a CU is a lot like being hyper-visible and hyper-invisible at the same time. When I speak up in class, people are listening to the teacher, and then when I speak, everyone zones out.
That's what I continue to say is, what about me looks like an athlete? And I think you do notice that most of the African Americans who are here on campus are athletes. Just because I'm an African American doesn't mean that I'm an athlete. I have other credentials and I have other good qualifications that allows me to be here at this university.
So basically, one of the biggest struggles of being a minority at a predominantly white institution is that a lot of times you don't see people that share the same, I'd say, culture as you. Obviously, you don't see a lot of people that look like you, which is why Marcus said there's a max of 3. A lot of my classrooms, they're the only African American, where it'll be 3 of us. Adapting to the culture, honestly, coming to this university, coming to college in general was a culture shock, especially racially, socially, in a lot of ways, but especially being a minority, it makes it a lot tougher because I feel like I always have to assimilate to white culture. That's why Marcus is imagine being white at an HBCU. Believe it or not, there's not, I won't say a language barrier, but one thing I noticed is that when I started doing computer science, I noticed that there was some sort of language barrier between me and my TAs and my professors and even my fellow students. So that challenged me to expand my language because I grew up at a high school where we used a lot of slang. So people used to make fun of me. They used to say I talk white, but I'm so glad that I paid attention to the way I talked and made sure my grammar was grammatically correct and the things I would say is grammatically correct, because at the end of the day, you want to be able to talk in front of anyone. You want everyone to be able to understand what you're saying. Don't get me wrong, there are a lot of times that there are jokes or things that I would say and people around me are just dude, what are you talking about? And I know if I was back home with my friends or just around black people, they would totally understand what I'm saying.